Today, let's talk about error reporting and error management in Nexla. So of course, once you set up all your flows, once your data is flowing through Nexla to where it needs to be, a critical piece is making sure everything's running smoothly, there's no errors, there's no invalid data, and all of that is really easy to manage and monitor in a powerful way in Nexla, even at production scale for large companies. So let's talk about 3 things in Nexla that make this really easy and user-friendly to manage all of your errors and make sure your data quality is high and no errors are stopping any production flows. So first, let's start from the highest level. Nexla has really powerful monitoring tools that make it easy to watch what's going on in your account. So we can start on the dashboard here in Nexla and see at a glance what's flowing, daily read and write stats, check over the flows, and then of course any errors and notifications right here on the dashboard. And then from here we can jump into any individual data set, source, or sync by just clicking where the error is found. Along with this, we can set notification settings at a global level across our Nexla platform. These notifications can go to the Nexla app, to your email, even to specific Slack channels and webhooks. So this enables any notifications about data changing, sudden schema changes, errors, etc. All of this can be exported and summarized to even Datadog, PagerDuty, enterprise monitoring tools like that, or to your individual accounts to make sure that everything's running smoothly. So this is the global error management and notification that makes seeing at a glance all of the errors very easy. If we go down a little level, then we can look at errors on individual flows and data sets. So if we look at an error in a data set, we can see what happens when there's an error when something is being processed. So if we look into a data sync, we'll sometimes see or catch error data failing to upload into a source or sync. So this can be an operational error, this can be a server dropping, but we can quickly see what happened, get an error message, and then even export these in bulk to triage errors. Nexla will automatically retry in case there's just a server blip or something like that, and quarantine any records that fail to process. So we'll see an error message next to the records processed and quickly be able to figure out what's going on, where it happened, when it happened, and why it happened. This is very critical when you're dealing with thousands, millions, even trillions of records to see what is failing and why, and Nexla makes it easy to catch that. Going down to the most specific level of errors, we can set individual rules on flows and data sets to make sure that they are running correctly. So if we jump into, let's take this sample customer data here, if we jump into the transform screen, we can set any specific validations and output rules here to make sure that everything is as we expect. So let me move these characteristics right over. And let's set a couple validation rules. So let's say email is a required field. Let's also say that email, we can set regex rules here, or we can set that email should look like an email string. Let's also make sure this ID field is positive, for example. So let's say ID must be between 1 and 1 million. Apply changes. So now that I've set these rules, the new data set that I create will monitor and check for those rules and then give you a notification and an error when those rules are broken. Then we can quickly go down to the individual record level and triage those, check if that's a mistake we expect or not, and make sure that it is correct. So let's go ahead and introduce an error into this flow from the upstream data source and see what happens. I have the CSV that this data set came from, so let's go ahead and pull that up and introduce a few errors here and then re-upload this file so Nexla will process it again. So we said email needs to be present. Let's delete a few of these. Email needs to look like an email, so let's take away some of those. And ID must be positive, so let's also throw in some problematic ID numbers over here. We'll save this and upload it, and then we'll see what happens when Nexla re-ingests this new data. So I've let Nexla process the new data that I uploaded. We can see right here, the data processed number has increased, and we can see on the data set where we set these validation rules. Let me just rename this here, customer data with validation rules. We can see this one now has 5 errors. So when I go into the next set and go to error data, I can see detailed information about what happened. So with these 5, we can see the 5 records that we changed that failed the output schema. So this one, we can see the email doesn't match the email field. We can see this one also doesn't match the email field. We deleted the email altogether here. This was a required field. And same thing here and here. So same thing with any errors. They appear here. We can export all of these in bulk to analyze them. Then the cool thing we can do once we have the error data is set up an error data export in Nexla. So when we go here, you can see that when we configure this and set up, we can have Nexla export erroneous records with some information about what happened to the destination of your choice. So for example, if I configure an S3 bucket, an FTP server, we can then have all of our error data files go there for triage manually. So this makes it really easy, really integrated with your error management setup to get your error data in and out of Nexla and fixed in the fastest way possible. You'll be notified through the notification management to the channel of your choice or the enterprise monitoring tools, and you can monitor everything at a glance from your dashboard here. We can see that this flow needs attention. We caught those errors here, and I can make sure all of my data continues to run smoothly in high quality with perfect passing of all my validation rules. This is how error management and data quality is managed in Nexla, to be managed by the user and made sure that all of your data is running smoothly and correctly all of the time, even at production scale.